All right, so this first podcast, hold on, start my timer, is on the American Revolution. So use this for the American Revolution column on the chart that I left for y'all. I'm also going to put links in Schoology for other stuff for y'all to go look up if y'all want more information to fill out your chart. So don't just 100% rely on my podcast. Go look at other stuff too. Okay, background to the American Revolution. This one shouldn't be as long because y'all should know this from 8th grade, hopefully. The big causes of the big causes of the American Revolution date all the way back to the 7 Years' War, which is the French and Indian War in America. But the 7 Years' War was basically Britain and France. They were fighting all over the world, and Britain ultimately wins, but it does cost them a lot of money. So in order to help pay for the war, which a lot of it was fought in America, they start taxing the colonists because they were the ones being protected, so they should have to pay for everything. Britain's also going to leave troops in the colonies to prevent another war, and the colonists really don't like that. Another cause is going to be the mercantilistic policies that Britain had, and it's going to anger the merchants because colonists can only purchase manufactured goods from Great Britain, and they have to send all of their raw materials to Britain, even if somebody else was willing to pay more, or you could buy something cheaper from, say, France or Spain or somebody else. Nope, it had to trade with Britain. And then as the Enlightenment starts to take hold, people became really, especially the people who were responsible for the revolution, really read the works of not the French Enlightenment thinkers because they were too radical, but like the British people, like John Locke and Hobbes. And so these ideas about equality, property rights, representation, those are kind of what take hold for the Americas. So going back to Britain having taxes to help pay for the 7 Years' War, is that they start raising the taxes on the colonists. You start off with, like, you get like the Stamp Act, then the Sugar Act, all kinds of acts that we're not really going to go into. But just know that the colonists really didn't like the fact that they are being taxed without representation in Parliament. If they would have had someone in Parliament representing their interests, it might not have been so bad. But they're not. So that's when you get the whole no taxation without representation thing. Okay. So when the American Revolution actually starts, we didn't start it to be like, okay, peace out, we want our own country. It was just really to try to get Britain to back off with a bunch of things, but then ultimately we started our own country. So as far as goals, we really wanted to preserve the liberties that we felt we had already been given, being kind of like the self-autonomous group that we've been for a while, because we were so far away from Britain. The colonists had like their own little self-governing entities, and so we were basically self-sufficient. And then to have Britain come in and try to start imposing law, that's what a lot of people had issue with. So like I said, really not trying to like start a whole lot of stuff, just preserve what people felt they already had. All right, so important events. You have the Sons of Liberty, who were the little group that would protest everything, make sure Britain couldn't collect taxes, and kind of like a little mini terrorist group. But that's okay, because in America, they're patriots. Yay. What? So my husband's over here making comments. I'm trying to figure out what he's saying. So then we get the Stamp Act Congress. We start boycotting stuff. They start passing more acts. They send more troops, which eventually leads to the Boston Massacre in 1770. It killed all of 5 people, and it's a massacre. But that's the whole purpose of propaganda. You get the famous engraving by Paul Revere that shows like the evil British troops and the commander telling them to fire on the poor citizens. And there's a little dog in the picture. So that's like the rallying cry. Ooh, ha, move. Can't see. Then you get the Boston Tea Party in 1773. We destroyed $500,000 worth of tea. And so that just creates more problems for everyone. That's probably one of the biggest known events during the Revolution. Okay, so then eventually we're going to get to the Declaration of Independence. It's finally approved July 4th, 1776, written by Thomas Jefferson. So this is probably the most important document written in American history. Then we move on to the war itself. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on the actual war, but King George didn't like that. Sends in a whole bunch of troops. And so from start of protesting to Constitution and the end of the war, we're looking at the American Revolution lasting from 1765 to 1783. The British come and take control of New York. They take New Jersey. George Washington famously crosses the Delaware and beats the German mercenaries, the Hessians. Britain loses the Battle of Saratoga, which is like the turning point of the revolution because it shows other European countries that, hey, look, we're actually kind of organized and maybe have a chance. And so that's what gets the French to come support us. Then we get help from the Spanish and the Dutch. Britain starts to move south to try to take the southern colonies, and then finally they surrender after the Battle of Yorktown. And because France helped us so much by sending us money and troops, they go into debt, which kind of causes their lovely little revolution. All right. So after that, we get the Constitution. Well, first you had like the really sucky Articles of Confederation that really couldn't do anything. The government couldn't collect taxes. You couldn't have the same people in charge. There's no money. There's no president. There's no real like court system, nothing. So the Constitutional Convention was held to rewrite the Articles. And I'm using air quotes for that because anyway, they're like, we're just going to get rid of this. This is horrible. New Constitution, which was written by James Madison, goes into effect 1779 based on John Locke's ideas of natural rights if you were a white male who owned property, because that's the only way that all men are created equal. Not women, not slaves, not poor people, but only if you were white and had property. And then we do borrow from Rousseau with the social contract, so there's more Enlightenment idea there. And then Montesquieu with his whole separation of power things and checks and balances. So overall outcomes of the American Revolution, obviously independence, we become our own country. You get a federal form of democracy, which is totally different than anything that's existed at all in history. This is your first democratic, non-monarchy-based government. And the fact that it stayed that way for over 200 years actually really says something. And it's going to inspire other revolutions based on these ideas. So not saying that the American Revolution wasn't revolutionary, other than the fact that we got independence and we changed the government type. Nothing else really changes. Like I said, the same people are still in charge, so nothing really revolutionary happens as a result of the American Revolution, except America. But all right, that's it. Next one is France, and France might have to end up being 2 videos because there's a lot there.